All right, welcome, welcome, welcome. Today we have another phenomenal webinar. Today's webinar is with Dr. Will Bulsiewicz. Did I say your last name right, Dr. Will? Hopefully I did. All of a
Not
sudden
only
frozen. I
was
can't see what's
that
going on here.
accurate,
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, well, not only was that accurate, but I almost felt like, I was in Poland and someone was pronouncing my name in the native tongue. It was impressive.
Well, I've been practicing, let me tell you that for sure. I'm glad you picked up on that. Uh, Dr. Will Bulsiewicz is also known by the name Dr. B. He is all over Instagram. He is extremely popular. In case you have never seen him before or never heard the information that he talks about, and especially in relation to how your diet can dramatically affect your gut microbiome and all of the satellite tentacles, we'll say, of your gut microbiome. So Dr. Will, we are super excited to have you here today. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Cyrus. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm excited to take everyone through the slide deck. We ready
Fantastic.
to roll?
Well, yeah. So let me give you a little intro here first, because there's
Okay, cool.
there's
All right.
350 people coming in so far, and there's going to be a lot more showing up today. So for those of you who are just joining us, thank you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. In the chat box, do me a favor, and I just want to get a good idea here of how many of you guys are plant-based and how many of you may not be plant-based. So if you currently are plant-based, please put the number 1 into the chat box. Just hit 1, enter. If you are not plant-based, put the number 2 and hit enter. Oh boy, there's a lot of 1s. Lots of 2s are coming in now. Okay, now, if you are somewhere in between and maybe you like the idea of eating a plant-based diet but aren't fully plant-based yet, which is totally fine, please put 1.5 in the chat box. And now I see a lot of those coming in. Can you see the chat box as well, Will?
Yeah, I'm impressed. I'm impressed.
Yeah.
You know what? I love all of it. I'm excited that they're all here.
Yeah, it looks like we got people from all walks. It looks like mainly now there's a bunch of 1.5s in there, which is great, which means that it sounds like you guys are very interested in a plant-based diet and maybe making your way in that direction, but not necessarily fully plant-based yet, which is, again, totally cool. In today's webinar, Dr. Will Bulsiewicz is going to talk to you about the benefit of a fiber-rich diet, but a very specific sort of, we're going to get a lot of information here about what fiber is, what different types of fiber exist, and why they're all very important. Dr. Will Bulsiewicz is also known as Dr. B, like I mentioned earlier. He's a gastroenterologist, and he's an internationally recognized gut health expert. He completed a bachelor's degree from Vanderbilt University and a medical degree from Georgetown University and a master's in clinical investigation from Northwestern University. He was the chief medical resident at Northwestern and the chief gastroenterology fellow at the University of North Carolina. And he also received the highest award given by both his residency and his fellowship. He's been featured by numerous media outlets and popular podcasts. That's a long-winded way of me saying Dr. Will is incredibly smart. And you guys will see exactly what I'm talking about in a few minutes. In today's webinar, Dr. B is going to help you understand a lot of things. Number 1, he's going to teach you how your microbiome impacts your blood glucose, how your microbiome impacts cholesterol, how your microbiome impacts your immunity, which is a very important topic in today's world, as well as your mood, and much, much more. Number 2, he's going to teach you why elimination diets can sometimes actually be hazardous to your health. And then number 3, he's going to talk about the signs and symptoms of a damaged microbiome and how both simple diet changes can help undo the damage in a very short period of time. Dr. Will, we also have some pretty exciting news today. And the exciting news is that Dr. B has released a book. And the name of his book is called Fiber Fueled. And the book came out today. Dr. B, show that on the screen. Show it nice and strong. There we go. You see that right there? Fiber Fueled. Got a beautiful cover of a kiwi exploding, right? That book came out earlier today. And his new book is called Fiber Fueled, the plant-based gut health program for losing weight, restoring health, and optimizing your microbiome. I think that could be the longest subtitle I've ever heard before. And in this book, what it does is it covers step-by-step the methodology to stop the misinformation madness that currently exists on the internet. I'm sure you guys have probably seen that, okay? And this information is caused by mainly the diet industry. And in this book, he's going to show you simple and, most importantly, science-backed principles for a lifestyle, for living a lifestyle that's actually effortless, it's very sustainable, and above all, it helps transform your health by optimizing your gut microbiome. Dr. B, congratulations on your new book. I'm really, really, really proud of you.
Cyrus, my friend, thank you so much. Thank you for the beautiful introduction. You know, I listened to that and I feel like a big time nerd, and that's okay because we're here to talk about gut health. This is what I do for a living. I'm a gastroenterologist, and so excited to be here. I know that some of you guys could not see the cover to this book. And so let me just give you a little zoom in right there. That is what being fiber fueled is all about, the exploding kiwi, okay? So, Cyrus, am I okay to take over and do the slides?
Give me 1 second here. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to show the book cover as well in full HD. Do you guys see, can you see that screen right there? Can you see that fiber fueled right there? Okay. So we're going to be talking about this book today, a lot of the components that are inside of this. And hopefully you guys will have an opportunity to go pick up this book because it's really, I'm telling you, I've read a lot of books in my time. This book is exceptional, and I really do mean that. So, Dr. B, you can take over screen share whenever you are ready. And let's have some fun.
Nice, man. Let's rock and roll. I am so excited to be here and talk to you guys. And you know what? You showed my book cover, but I'm going to one-up you, my friend. How about that one?
You're going to show it again. I like it.
All right. The name of my book is Fiber Fueled. And guys, I am so excited to be here and talk to you today about gut health, but specifically plant-based gut health. And I feel a little bit silly that I have to give the caveat that it's plant-based gut health. The reality is this is just gut health. This is not some special form. This is not me trying to figure out a way to make it plant-based. This is the actual science. This is what we're talking about. And as I get started here, before I begin, I just want to give a huge thank you to the people at Forks Over Knives. I cannot thank them enough. I cannot thank Brian and Brooke and you, Cyrus, for allowing me the opportunity to come to talk to you guys about my passion, which is plant-based gut health. This is what I'm all about. So let's jump right in. And I have a request for you guys. For me to do my job and do it effectively, I need you to do something for me first. And that is that I need you to erase the mental image of your grandma stirring the orange drink so that she could have a bowel movement in the evening. Okay? I need you to get rid of that. I need you to get rid of the idea that fiber is just in the mouth and at the other end. And I want to start from scratch. I want to build from the ground up and teach you what you need to know about fiber, which is this magic thing that is so much more powerful than you would ever realize until you read my book or you listen to this talk. And thank you, Cyrus, for the lovely introduction. You guys, I'm Dr. Will Bulsiewicz. Everyone calls me Dr. B. And I have to tell you, I am just so sick and tired of the misinformation on the internet. I've had enough. I'm over it. And I've really had enough of these fad diets from the self-titled gut experts. You'll notice that these people who claim to be gut experts, they're never actually trained in gastroenterology, which is amazing to me that you would claim to be a gut expert without the actual training. I would never claim to be a cardiologist, even though I am board certified as an internal medicine doctor. I would never do that. That would be ludicrous. So I find it quite interesting when people want to come into the gut space and claim expertise and yet haven't had any actual training in that area. And I think that you deserve better. I think that you guys deserve better than what you've been receiving from these fad diets. They're not doing you any good. And I think that you deserve actual science. And science needs to be the compass. This is what I use on a daily basis in my clinic, okay? When I walk in and I'm taking care of my patients, I want you to understand that there is truth that exists. And science is the compass that guides us to that truth. And when we are misled and when we receive misinformation, that's like a compass that's just spinning in circles. And you don't know what direction to walk. And you walk yourself in circles, and then you get frustrated because you haven't made any progress in terms of finding the path towards your ultimate goal, which is health. We need science. Science is the compass that shows us the path to find better health. And that is what I used in writing my book. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. And it starts with this strapping young buck right here named Hippocrates. He is the founder of Western medicine. He predates Jesus thousands of years ago. And when I wore a white coat for the first time at Georgetown, I put on the white coat, I took the Hippocratic Oath. And that is my dedication as a physician to taking the best care of my patients and to do no harm. And one of the things that Hippocrates said, not a part of the Hippocratic Oath, but one of the things that he said is all disease begins in the gut. And I did not understand this until very recently. And I trained at these great institutions, Vanderbilt for college, Georgetown for med school, Northwestern. I was the internal medicine chief resident. I got a master's of clinical investigation there. I went to the University of North Carolina. I did my GI training. Many people who are in my specialty would argue this is the top division in the entire country. And I also was at the School of Public Health, which is the #2 rated school of public health, tied with Harvard. And yet, it never really connected for me that nutrition really meant anything. But I ran into a problem. I was about 31 years old, and I felt miserable. I felt like I was 60. I was exhausted, anxious. I had low self-esteem. I was 50 pounds overweight. You can see in this picture. This is what my brothers would point out to me when I went home for Christmas every year. Will, what happened, man? And the funny thing is, I'm not exaggerating. When you see this picture right here, I was working out 6 times a week. I am not exaggerating. I was working out 6 times a week. I would do 30 to 45 minutes of weights, and then I would jump on the treadmill for a 5 to 10K, or I would go in the pool for 100 laps. And this is what you see. And you can see how round my face was back then. I thought I could outwork it. I worked as hard as I could. I'm a hardworking person. And so I dedicated myself to losing the gut, losing the weight. I could build muscle mass. I could run a good 5K. I could swim 100 laps. I still couldn't lose the gut. And, I just didn't understand that the diet that I was raised on from my childhood was the actual problem. It's not that I thought that I was eating healthy food. It's more so that I had always eaten this way. This is the way that I was raised. And why would something suddenly change that would cause me to lose my health, to gain 50 pounds, and have all of these medical issues? So I never really connected the dots. And the greatest thing to ever happen to me, much better than writing my book, is that I met my wife. And you have to understand, I had never been around someone that ate the way that she ate. My wife ate plant-based. My wife ate the way that I'm going to describe to you today, which is what science actually supports. And we would be on a date, and I would see her over there eating all plants, and I would have the pork chop or the ribeye, and I could not lose the gut. And I saw her eating without restriction. She was enjoying her food. She was happy. She was satisfied. And she had no weight issue. And she didn't have to try as hard as I was trying. And so it opened up my mind to the possibility, maybe it was my diet. And so I started to make small changes at first, replacing, fast food with a smoothie. And I felt amazing. And my energy level came up. And next thing I knew, the fat was melting away. My blood pressure dropped. My self-esteem was coming back. And I started to question why I had not heard anything about this in my medical training. And so after making these simple substitutions and having results and feeling so much better, I mean, look at this. This is me basically at 40. I'm in the best shape of my life. And this is not me working out. Believe it or not, this is me working out an hour a week. I'm not exaggerating. Twice a week for 30 minutes over here. And this is me 6 times a week for like an hour and 15 minutes each time. It's diet. Diet is the key. Diet allowed me to lose the gut and to get into the best shape of my life. And I sincerely believe that going from 31 to 40, I sincerely believe that I reversed aging. And we have some science to back that up. You have to understand, guys, I am a man of science. I've dedicated my life to it. I immersed myself in clinical research. And I'm the type of guy, if the science isn't there, I can't fully buy in. So I turned to the medical literature. And, I was like, how come I haven't heard anything about this? I mean, if plant-based diet is the way to go, how come I haven't heard anything about this? And I went to PubMed and I thought I would find like 5 studies. And I was shocked when I found thousands of studies, powerful studies, systematic reviews and meta-analyses, randomized controlled trials that showed me that this wasn't just a coincidence, that human biology is meant to work this way. And I found this connection between the plants in our diet and the microbes in our gut. And to me, this connection is electric. It is electric. To me, this is so powerful. And I believe that this is one of the important keys to human health. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. That's what I wrote my book about. So I brought these ideas into my medical practice because I'm the kind of guy that I just want to do the best that I can as a doctor. I want to give my patients the best that I have. And so when I discover something that I believe can make a meaningful difference in the life of my patients, I have to give it to them at any expense. It doesn't matter what the cost is. I'm going to do that. And so I felt compelled to share this in my medical practice, and I've been blown away by the results. It's incredible the way this is working. So I got to a point after several years of seeing people experience health transformations in the same way that I had experienced, that I felt compelled to do something that frankly was out of character for me. If you know me from social media, you would think that I love social media. I actually don't. I really don't enjoy it at all. But I felt compelled to share this story. I felt like people deserved to hear it. And I really believed that it just was not good enough for me to be behind closed doors in my medical practice, taking care of patients, but not telling the entire world about the healing power that I had discovered. So I created my social media account, The Gut Health MD. And then I started doing podcasts. I've been on Robbie and Cyrus's podcast, Mastering Diabetes. This is from the Plant Proof podcast, episode 17, which went viral in 2018. And that ultimately led me to a place where I got pulled into writing this book. I just felt like there was a message that you guys deserved to hear. And it wasn't enough for me to have social media or to be on podcasts, that you actually deserved the written word, well thought out, well structured, and complete. And that's what led me to write this book, Fiber Fueled. And today I'm going to share with you this transformative power that the gut microbiome has and the path to optimize it. And here's a little preview. It's not what you've heard on the internet. It's not a fad. It's not even a diet. It's actually a lifestyle trajectory that heals. That's what this is. It's lifestyle. Look at this number. This number is absurdly large. Am I right? All right. Hundreds, thousands, millions, billions, trillions. 39 trillion microbes. That's the number of microbes that you have as a part of your gut microbiome. And if you take all the stars in our galaxy, every single one in the Milky Way, you would need 100 of these galaxies and condense it down and fit it into your colon. And that is your gut microbiome. You have 100 times more microbes than there are stars in our entire galaxy inside of you. And they're made up of 5 different types of microbes: bacteria, fungi, archaea, parasites, viruses. Believe it or not, you have more microbes than human cells. You are less than 50% human. And there are at least 10,000 different species of microbes that exist across this planet that can be a part of the human microbiome. You personally, though, have anywhere from 300 to 1,000 species inside of you. And they include bacteria. You know, we hear about the bad guys like E. coli and Salmonella and Shigella. But as it turns out, bacteria make up most of our microbiome, and the vast majority of them are good, especially when you eat the way that I propose in my book. Fungi are yeast. And just like bacteria, there are good ones and there are bad ones. In this picture, this is actually the esophagus. I see this when I do an upper endoscopy on some patients. And this is a Candida infection, Candida esophagitis. And this is a type of bad fungus. But guess what? There's a lot of really good funguses too. And they're a part of a healthy gut microbiome. And then my favorite, the archaea. Archaea are somewhere between fungi and bacteria, not quite exactly like either one. And they have been on our planet for 4 billion years. Guys, there's only been oxygen for 2.5 billion years. They were hanging out for 1.5 billion years with no oxygen. You will find archaea in the bottom of the ocean in a rift vent. You will find them inside of a volcano. And you will find them inside of your colon. And given the choice, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I think I would take the friendly confines of the human colon over the inside of a volcano or the bottom of the ocean in a rift vent. That's just me. I'll let you pick your own choice. And these microbes, guys, they live in harmony. They live in harmony inside of us. There's a balance that exists. Imagine it like this forest here. This forest is made up of the flowing brook and the trees and the grass and the other plants and the birds, the butterflies, the bugs, the snakes, the animals. And they all live as a part of this ecosystem. Guys, your microbiome is as much of an ecosystem as you see in this forest. And the rules that exist within this forest are very similar to the rules that apply within your gut ecosystem. And just like you can decimate and damage this forest, you can decimate and damage your gut. And that looks like this. This is where you have less of the beautiful trees. There's no flowing brook. This is where there are more bad guys and less good guys. You have these terrible werewolves that are horrifying. And, you know, this is what the gut looks like when it's been damaged. And perhaps you've heard of the expression leaky gut. Well, we have a medical term, and the medical term that we use is right here, dysbiosis. And this picture, I'm not going to quiz you on this. I'm not going to ask you to memorize the nerdiness that exists within this picture, even though I personally love it. I just want you to take in the image of this on the left, homeostasis, which is a balanced gut. And look at all the different blues. The blues are the anti-inflammatory healthy microbes. All right, look at all these beautiful blues. And oh, by the way, this right here, these are short chain fatty acids. I'm going to come back and talk about short chain fatty acids in a minute. They're kind of important. But over here on this side, this is dysbiosis. This is a damaged gut. And gosh, over here, not many red guys. The red guys are the bad ones. Over here, the red guys are dominating. There's not many blue guys anymore over here on the right-hand side. And you're not really seeing many of the short chain fatty acids either. This is a damaged gut. This is what it looks like on a microscopic level. And the symptoms that are associated with damage to the gut are very broad. I mean, look at this list. Think about this list and consider where you fall personally, what symptoms you may have experienced, or what symptoms a person that you care about may have experienced. So we know that the gut microbiome is affiliated with digestion. It makes sense that it helps us to process and digest our food. But did you realize that it's connected to all of these other things too? That it's connected to our immune system, our mood, our cognition, our metabolism, our hormones, even the expression of our genetics. Let's take a little bit of a deeper dive here. 70% of your immune system lives in the gut. Over here in this picture, we're zooming in like we have a microscope, and we're zooming in, and what we're looking at is this is the epithelial layer. This is the layer that separates the inside of the intestine from where the bloodstream is over here. And what you find is there is a single layer of cells. This layer is so thin that the human eye can't see it. And on one side, there are the gut microbes, and there is also food. And oh, look, short chain fatty acids are showing up again right here. And on the other side over here, this is your immune system, 70% of your immune system, and they're separated by just this much, and they are talking to each other right now. They are talking to each other. Look at the list of immune-mediated conditions associated with damage to the gut. It's a laundry list. When I was researching my book, there was no immune-mediated condition that I actually found a study looking at whether or not the gut microbiome was associated, and the answer was no. What I'm saying is every single immune-mediated condition that has been studied, where they look at the gut microbiome, they always find that there is damage to the gut microbiome. How about the connection between the gut and our brain? Our brain's best friend is your gut. It's like two teenage girls who are on the phone for like 6 hours straight, and they can't stop talking to each other. That's the way that your brain and your gut are. They are in communication, literally right here, right now. We have almost 3,000 people on this call right now. And every single one of you, your brain is talking to your gut, and your gut is talking to your brain literally right this second. The gut contains 500 million nerves. Think about that. That is 5 times more than you'll find in the spinal cord. 90% of your serotonin, the happy hormone, produced in the gut. 50% of dopamine, which controls our reward center. When we get the gratification, like, oh, I just accomplished something. I published a book. Boom, dopamine. 50% in the gut. Over 30 neurotransmitters. Now, I'm no neurologist, but I didn't even realize there were 30 neurotransmitters. That's how many there are in the gut. They are in constant communication. They have multiple different ways that they talk to each other. They can talk to each other through nerves. They can talk to each other through hormones. They can talk to each other through the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. And one of the ways that they can communicate is with short chain fatty acids. You keep hearing me say this. And look at the list of conditions. This is an early list. There's going to be more in the future. Think about the different things: anxiety, depression, so common. ADHD, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, bipolar, migraine headaches. Guys, I want to clear the air on something. You've been told that weight is calories in and calories out. There's a lot of personal trainers who believe this. It's not true. It's simply not true. Let me show you real quick what's going on here. They've done these microbiome studies with mice. And what they do is they take a mouse that has been specially bred so that it does not have a microbiome, okay? So this germ-free mouse is then given a human microbiome. They could give it a normal microbiome. They could give it the microbiome from a human who is overweight, or they could give the mouse the microbiome from a human who is underweight. And then what they do is they take these 3 mice with their brand new microbiomes and they feed them the exact same food, the exact same number of calories. And what do you see? The one who gets a normal microbiome weighs a normal amount. Obese microbiome creates an obese mouse. Skinny microbiome creates a skinny mouse, yet they all received the same number of calories. It's shocking, and it challenges much of what we've been taught. And here's the list of metabolic conditions that have been associated with damage to the gut. Many of America's top killers are on this list: coronary artery disease, chronic kidney disease, type 2 diabetes, all top 10 killers in the United States. The gut is also an endocrine organ. It's as much of an endocrine organ as your testicles or your ovaries. It produces hormones. And this is the reason why the gut has also been associated with these hormonal conditions: endometriosis, polycystic ovary syndrome, thyroid disorders, different types of cancer that are connected to hormones, all connected back to the gut. Oh, and by the way, if there's any guys in the crowd, this is what's going to motivate you more than anything to change your diet right there. That is the number one thing that's going to motivate any man to consider moving towards a plant-based diet. Boom. How about our genes? Okay, so I said you are less than 50% human when it comes to cells. What about our genetic expression? Guys, it gets even crazier. Our gut microbes make up 99.5% of our genetic code. You are literally less than 1% human when it comes to your genetic code. You are less than 1% human. I'm sorry if I'm wigging you out. I'm sorry, but this is science. This is the truth. And, you know, Cyrus and I, as crazy as this sounds, are 99.9% identical when it comes to our human genome. We are 99.9% the same, but our microbiome may be completely different. And there is no person on the planet that has the same microbiome as you. It is as unique as a fingerprint. And through certain things like epigenetics, our microbes have the ability to regulate our genetic expression. So you guys, raise your hand and let me know, who here is shocked by how powerful this one spot, the gut microbiome? My screen is blowing up. You guys are all raising your hands. My screen, I can't even see my screen right now. Y'all are funny, man. All right.
Yeah, the chat box is certainly going crazy. I was going to try and play a commentator for you here, but you can see I can't even read this fast.
Nice.
Keep going.
All right. So it is incredible how powerful this is. And this is why, you guys, this is why I don't care whether you suffer with digestive issues or any of the medical issues that I have mentioned already in this talk. Whether you are sick, whether you are healthy, this is the most important thing in human health. This is it. We all need to pay attention to our gut microbiome. It is so critically important and it should never be overlooked. I follow my own medicine. I can assure you of that. So what determines the makeup of our gut microbiome? Let's start digging into how we can take control of this. Well, here's the thing. There's some things that you simply can't control, okay? You can't control your genetics or your age or how you were born. You can't do that. But you can control your diet and medications and sleep, tobacco, alcohol, exercise, stress, the people that you hang out with. And I want to talk a little bit more about diet. Now think about this. I just basically said that lifestyle controls our gut microbiome. Consider for a moment how much our life has changed in the last 100 years. Consider this. Let's go back to 1920. All right. No television, certainly no cell phone, no video games for the kids, no processed food. You probably knew your farmer. You were not driving in a car. You were spending a lot more time outdoors. You were spending a lot more time with real people because you were not on the couch and you were not on social media. Radically different lifestyle in just 100 years. And our gut has been forced to adapt to the changes that we have forced on these microbes. We live in an overfed, undernourished, and hypermedicated world. Those are the changes that we have made. We have added new chemicals to our food, processed foods, where they get into our food supply under a loophole called generally recognized as safe, which does not require human testing. We have new farming practices that include herbicides, insecticides. We have narrowed down, our farmers have been forced to use high yield crops. Biodiversity is eroding away. That's not a good thing. The animal agriculture industry is pumping cows up with antibiotics and hormones. 80% of antibiotics in this country are not given to humans. They're given to cows. You know why? Because when you destroy the microbiome of a cow with antibiotics, it becomes obese and it gains weight faster eating the same amount of food. Our new normal diet is 60% processed and 30% animal and only 10% plants. That was me. That was me when I was 31 years old. You saw the photos. Our medications, antibiotics, look, they're great when you need them. We're overusing them. Proton pump inhibitors, billions per year. Non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, trillions per year in the United States. Our sedentary life, we're not spending time outdoors. We're hyper-sterilized. We have weird sleep patterns now. We're looking at our phone or watching TV at 10:30 at night, which is affecting our sleep hormones and our ability to get good rest. Our systems and our culture are designed to strip us of our gut health, not intentionally. It's the fallout. It's that we didn't understand what was going on with the gut microbiome until very recently. The point is this: if you want a healthy gut, this is not going to just happen by accident. We need to be intentional. We need a plan. And this is your plan. My book, Fiber Fueled, this is the plan, completely science-based, and this is the playbook for how to live in our overfed, undernourished, and hypermedicated world. And we need to tap back into this connection that I've been talking about, this electric connection between plants and our gut microbes. So let me tell you more about this, because this is my passion. Here's how this works. All plants contain fiber, all of them, every single one. However, only plants contain fiber. They have a monopoly. They have cornered the market. There are millions, maybe billions of types of fiber in nature. Fiber is incredibly complex from a biochemical perspective. I was a chemistry major at Vanderbilt. This is just one example of fiber on the screen right now. That's how complicated it is. And it makes it nearly impossible for us to create estimates of how many types of fiber exist. But every type of fiber is different. Every type of fiber has its own properties. To keep things super simple, we break it into two main categories: insoluble fiber, which is the roughage, and soluble fiber, which is the stuff that will dissolve in a beverage. It's soluble. So here's the story on insoluble fiber, okay? It goes like this. Insoluble fiber goes in the mouth, wiggles its way through its intestine, and it launches out the other end like a torpedo, okay? That's what insoluble fiber does. Now, I realize that's what most of you have been taught is what actually happens with fiber, period. Not true. That's true for insoluble fiber, but we have a different story when it comes to soluble fiber, okay? Soluble fiber, for example, you will find soluble fiber in black beans, and it will feed microbes. Soluble fiber is food for your gut microbiome. It moves its way through your intestine and is unchanged until it gets to your colon. And then these beautiful, healthy, anti-inflammatory microbes get into an absolute feeding frenzy, and they devour the fiber. The fiber does not come out the derriere. The fiber is food for the microbes. They are as alive as you and I are, okay? These are living organisms. We may not feel like they are because they're invisible and we can't see them, but they are, they're alive. And every plant has unique fiber that feeds unique microbes. This is one of the good guys. He's fighting for you, but you gotta feed him, okay? And he's a picky eater. This guy right here, he wants black beans. And the problem is that if you restrict or eliminate the black beans, this guy gets weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker until he's gone. That ain't good. You just starved him out. Biodiversity is a measure of gut health. I talked before about the forest with all the different animals. If you take the snakes and the mosquitoes, so look, I'm going to be honest. I don't love snakes. They scare me. I don't love mosquitoes. They annoy me. But if we took the forest and we eliminated all the snakes and mosquitoes, there would be a hole in the ecosystem that you would not be able to replace. And that would affect the health of the entire forest. And the same is true in your gut microbiome. When we eliminate species, we can potentially cause harm to the gut microbiome to the point that you're not able to compensate for the loss. And that is when the gut has dysfunction. A more diverse diet translates into a more diverse microbiome. Follow me here. Diversity of plants means diversity of fiber. Every plant has its own types of fiber. Diversity of fiber translates into diversity of microbes. Each type of fiber will feed unique species of microbes. Makes sense, right? But guys, I'm just gonna be straight with you. There's a lot of books out there that are fad books that are based on theory. I am a gastroenterologist. I have my reputation. I am not going to come forward with a book based on theory. That's not good enough. We need legitimate science. We need legitimate science. I'm not going to come forward with an idea, okay? And that's where we have the American Gut Project, which is, by the way, not just American. 42 countries are represented around the world. This is the largest study to date to allow us to make a connection between our diet and lifestyle and the health of our gut microbiome. This is the most well-positioned study that we have to understand what it is about diet and lifestyle that predicts a healthy gut microbiome. And this is one of my health heroes, Rob Knight. He's at the University of California, San Diego. I hope that Rob Knight wins a Nobel Prize someday. I sincerely do. And I wrote about him in my book. And I was there at a meeting years ago where he stepped forward to the podium, sold out, packed house. And he said this: the single greatest predictor of a healthy gut microbiome is the diversity of plants in our diet. Scientifically confirmed, validated, the diversity of plants in our diet. Get off of me, elimination diets. Get off of me, paleo. Get off of me, keto. Look, let me be straight though, in all seriousness. We have 2,800 people in this room right now. We have more people who are going to watch this video later. I hope that some of you have been following the keto or the paleo diet. And you know why? Because I want to talk to you for a minute. You are the person that I appreciate the most. And this is the honest truth, because you have the audacity and the gall to actually change your diet in the interest of your health. If you're doing the paleo or the keto diet, it's because you're motivated to get better. My concern is that you have been fed bad science and bad ideas. And it's not your fault, because you're not the expert. You're asking the expert to give you guidance on the right way to eat, to heal your gut and optimize your body. Now, here we see the science. Elimination of whole grains and legumes, elimination of entire categories because they're deemed carbs is bad for the gut microbiome. 30 minutes ago, I said that I discovered a special connection between the plants in our gut, the plants in our diet, and the microbes in our gut. To me, this is the key to human health. And when your microbes feast on prebiotic fiber, they reward you by releasing short-chain fatty acids. I alluded to them earlier: acetate, propionate, and butyrate. This is the result of your gut microbes. And there's a magic formula. These short-chain fatty acids are what we call postbiotics. Now, you guys have heard of these probiotics. Those are the living microorganisms. Guess what? You have probiotics inside your gut right now. They're already there. You don't need to take a capsule to get them. Prebiotics are the food. This is the fiber. When you combine fiber and the healthy microbes in your gut, you produce postbiotics. The entire point of prebiotics and probiotics is to get postbiotics. That is the entire point. And they have healing effects throughout the entire body. Let me tell you about what they do in the gut, okay? They actually help you to get more healthy anti-inflammatory microbes. They enrich the good guys. They simultaneously suppress the inflammatory microbes. I talked about Salmonella, Shigella, E. coli. Guess what? Short-chain fatty acids actually suppress those bacteria directly. And by doing this, I showed you the forest with the werewolves. If you take the werewolves out of the forest and you grow out the trees and you bring in the cute little deer and the rabbits, you're going to get back to establishing a healthy gut microbiome. That is what the short-chain fatty acids are doing. They're strengthening the intestinal barrier, they're improving motility, and they also reduce sensitivity. This is what happens with people who have irritable bowel syndrome. But they also have healing effects throughout the entire body. It's no surprise. The gut is connected to the immune system. The gut is connected to our hormones, to our mood, to our brain and our cognition, to our metabolism. Well, guess what? Short-chain fatty acids are connected to our immune system. They protect us from cancer, heart disease, stroke, diabetes. They help us to lose weight. They sharpen and enhance our brain. I have so much more that I want to talk to you about. I literally am just getting started. If Brian from Forks Over Knives let me, I would go for 5 hours, okay? Because I love this stuff. And these are some of the topics that you will find covered in my book that, in the interest of time, we didn't go there, but my book does. And this is my book, Fiber Fueled. It is out today. One thing I want to say is that if you have the chance to purchase this, if you're in the United States, I really want you to think about buying it from your local bookstore because they're hurting right now. Amazon is not hurting, but your local bookstore is hurting. And let's support our local community. You guys can find me at theplantfedgut.com. I have a free email newsletter. I have a research guide, which shows you how to find the truth within the noise. It has all 600 references from my book. This is free. I have a COVID-19 guide. And last but not least, if you have a pen, write this down, bit.ly/fiberfueled supplements. I have a missing chapter for my book and special for the people from Forks Over Knives, the thousands of people who are here today listening to this webinar. I'm going to give this to you for free. This is not available to people on social media. This is just for you guys. So if you go to that website, you can download this completely for free. It's for you. And that is all I got.
Dr. B, unbelievable. It's funny. I've had many conversations with you. We've talked about everything under the sun, including gut health. And I've actually interviewed you on 5 separate occasions, multiple podcasts, multiple webinars, you name it. Every single time I listen to you talk, there's a new light bulb that goes off in my head about what the gut, what the architecture of the gut, the importance of your microbiome, and how your microbiome relates to other tissues in your body. So just keep talking as far as I'm concerned. You do a masterful job, and I appreciate all the information you shared because it's truly, truly, truly powerful stuff. that really does go against a lot of the information that I learned when I was in graduate school, which wasn't even that long ago, 2007 to 2012. I mean,
Right.
even at that time, I remember in classes, people were telling me fiber is not that important. Fiber goes in one end, it goes out the other end. It might bind to some cholesterol and pull it out of your system so that it doesn't get absorbed. But beyond that, it's pretty much inert. And you've done a really good job of helping us understand that actually that's not a true statement.
Thank you, my friend.
Absolutely. So before we got a lot of Q&A, there were a ton of questions that were coming in as you were speaking. And obviously you didn't have an opportunity to answer those questions. So I want to make sure that we get to those questions, no question. And we're going to try and answer as many as we can. Before we get there, I just want to share one thing. Okay. I want to show you guys something that the Forks Over Knives team is offering, which I think is fantastic. So I'm going to share my screen. So here we go. This is one of the things that I really love about the Forks Over Knives team is their mission to make whole food, plant-based eating easy, enjoyable, and accessible for literally anyone who wants the information. Truth be told, Forks Over Knives wants to see everyone living healthy and happy lives. And this is exactly why they do what they do and why they've created so many tools and so many resources for you to use as you transition to a more plant-focused lifestyle. They know that a diet or lifestyle change can sometimes be intimidating. And because of that, they've released a guide that's going to help you guys get started. So the guide is shown here. It's the special issue of the Forks Over Knives magazine called How to Eat Plant-Based. This issue was released earlier this year, and it sold out almost immediately. Now the Forks Over Knives team has brought it back, but only for a limited time. So for anybody who's considered trying to eat a plant-based diet, but isn't necessarily sure where to start, this essential beginner's guide shows you how to take charge of your health starting today. I'm telling you, this beautiful magazine has an incredible collection of articles and success stories and tips and tricks and recipes like you see on the screen right here that are 100% plant-based, oil-free. So let me take you through a quick look of what is inside. In this special issue, you're going to learn about the science that supports the power of plant-based eating to not only prevent, but actually reverse chronic illnesses such as heart disease, such as diabetes, and many more. And you'll also get answers to common health and nutrition related questions from doctors that are in the field. You'll find real life success stories. You'll find shopping tips, and you'll get cooking tips as well. And you'll get 59 delicious recipes. I tell you, if for no other reason you get this magazine simply for the recipes, it is still a slam dunk. This special issue cuts through all the confusion and puts the pleasure in plant-based eating. Highlights of this particular recipe include how to roast and saute without using oil. In the chat box, if you've ever been confused about this question, how do I cook without oil? Just write the word oil in the chat box. Another thing that you're going to learn are 5 ways to build healthy habits that last a lifetime. You'll also get a collection of the Forks Over Knives team's favorite breakfasts, lunches, dinners, and snacks, as well as dessert recipes. And trust me when I say that the recipes are for real. My wife and I have both been using the Forks Over Knives app, and we've been using the Forks Over Knives flavor cookbook, and we use this every single week. And I literally have yet to make a single recipe that not only was good, but didn't blow me away. So if you haven't started dabbling with the Forks Over Knives recipe, then you might be missing out. You'll also learn pro tips for dining out. You will also get what's called the kitchen reboot, which is it teaches you what to keep and what to toss and what to get to stock your pantry to success. You'll also get a 5-day meal plan with a shopping list and a weekend prep plan to get you started. Now, the Forks Over Knives How to Eat Plant-Based magazine is now available for a limited time on newsstands and in our online store. And it can be delivered straight to your door, both in US and Canada. So if you live outside of the US or Canada, you can also get a digital version available directly off of the Forks Over Knives website. And while you're shopping on the website, I also highly recommend checking out the rest of the items that are in their shop, including other books, magazines, DVDs, salad dressings, and more. If you or someone else you know is starting out with a plant-based diet, or even if you've been plant-based for a while and just want something new to keep you going, new recipes, new tips, new tricks, trust me when I say this special issue is incredible. The combination of this issue plus fiber fueled is a winning combo. So that, my friend, those are two things that you can do to get your plant-based transition into high gear, guaranteed 100% to make a huge difference in your overall health. Dr. B, we had a ton of questions. You ready?
Yeah. Are we going rapid fire as much as we can?
Yeah. You want to do lightning round right here?
We can go lightning round now. We'll go as long as you guys will, I'll go as long as you want me to go. I'm sure we're not going to get through all of them. It looks like we got a ton. Okay,
perfect. So there's 2,477 people here. Why don't we do question and answer for not too long? We'll just stay here for like 6 more hours and we'll just rapid fire questions the entire time. Is that cool?
Bro, don't test me like that, man. I'll take you up on that and you'll regret that choice.
I know you will. Okay, you ready? If I did take antibiotics, how would I be able to replenish good gut bacteria?
Okay. A very important study came out in September 2018 that showed us that you do not take probiotics. The answer is do not take a probiotic. It actually slows down the recovery of your gut. The solution is what we talked about. Plant-based diet in diversity. Diversity of plants in a plant-based diet is the approach that you need to heal your gut because you will feed the microbes and they will grow back.
Diversity of plant fiber. That is the answer. Joe asked a question. I have so much gas now that I'm vegan. What the heck should I do?
All right. Chapter 5 of my book is called How to Find Your Plant Passion with a Sensitive Gut. I break down for you the entire reason why. There can be medical reasons why you have gas and bloating, but sometimes it comes down to you have to go slow when you introduce fiber and FODMAPs. And I break down the science behind that in chapter 5. So that's going to be an important chapter for Joe.
That's very good. Okay. On that same note, what are the best fermented foods for gut health? Kombucha, kimchi, sauerkraut. Yes, no.
So I am all about the sauerkraut. Okay, basically you are taking cabbage. And by the way, my book has a recipe for sauerkraut, so you can make it at home. It's so easy to do. It's really fun. Delicious too, by the way. The sauerkraut is, you start with cabbage, one of the 10 healthiest foods on the planet, and you allow the microbes to transform it. And it becomes even more healthy. That's what I love about sauerkraut. Kimchi is the same thing.
Have I told you about my cabbage obsession?
No.
No?
I'm curious though.
Over the course of the last, I would say 9 months or so,
yeah.
I went from thinking that cabbage was sort of like, okay, it was this thing that you could buy and I didn't really want to buy it, to being 100% obsessed with it. I have it on a daily basis now, whether it's shredded finely and eaten raw in a salad, or whether I steam it, or whether I actually turn it into sauerkraut. I am not a master of sauerkraut and I want to become. So you've just motivated me. So thank you.
I want to tell you real quick that purple cabbage, I think so there are so many beautiful plants, right? The inside of an avocado is beautiful, but I think purple cabbage might be the most beautiful. When you cut into a purple cabbage and you look at it, it's just like, oh my gosh, look at that. It's gorgeous.
I have the image in my head. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Let's make cabbage cool again. Let's do it.
Mega.
Okay, here we go. Is drinking large amounts of water during your meal bad for your digestive processes?
No, it's actually good. It's actually good. There's no concern. I think that this is getting at the concern about stomach acid, but drinking water with your meal is certainly not a bad thing. If anything, it's a good thing. We don't drink enough water. It amazes me that we spend money on sugary beverages when you could have water for free.
That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. Okay. Here's a great question. What's the impact of birth control pills on the microbiome?
No great studies specifically with the microbiome, but people often wonder, and we do have studies where they've made a connection between birth control pills and inflammatory bowel disease. And inflammatory bowel disease is a disease of damage to the gut microbiome. So it suggests that if we did do a study, we would probably find something.
Okay, but there are no studies to this date. It's funny. In today's world, I feel like there's often, the answer is, well, there was this meta-analysis performed, or there was this evidence-based, randomized control trial that showed this. And that's sort of like the gold standard currency that we have in this world of science. But sometimes I would argue that stuff is important, but common sense also factors in. And sometimes when you can perform you can eat certain foods, or you can perform certain activities, and you can feel the effect on you, and you don't necessarily need a randomized control trial to prove to you that something is or is not intelligent. Correct?
Yeah, no, I think that's right. But I think you got to be careful. You have to be careful where people put excessive emphasis on short-term how they feel, right? Like, this makes me
Valid.
feel good, right? So, okay, cocaine makes people feel good. Alcohol makes people feel good. Smoking does. I don't know, so you have to be aware of the possibility that sometimes what feels good in the short term is bad for you in the long term.
Okay, very good distinction. I love that. How does alcohol affect your gut microbiome, just like you mentioned? Are there specific types of alcohol that are actually beneficial or not bad?
Okay, I talk about this in the book. Two things. Number one, alcohol is, I don't consider it to be good for the gut microbiome. Clearly, alcohol is associated with damage to the microbiome, which leads to cirrhosis. People who develop cirrhosis, it's because of damage to the microbiome. Okay, it's not the alcohol directly, believe it or not. It's the alteration of the gut microbiome that's a huge part of this. Mm-hmm. And so I would encourage people to not make alcohol a daily habit. It's okay to enjoy an alcoholic beverage from time to time. And of all the types of alcohol, red wine, because of, by the way, resveratrol, which is a polyphenol, is actually good for the microbiome. But resveratrol is also found in red grapes. It's also found in peanuts. You don't have to drink red wine to get resveratrol. There's other plant sources.
Cool. Oh, and what are those other plant sources?
Red grapes, cherries, peanuts. There's a couple more. I wrote about it in this section in the book.
Okay. So true or false? In order to get a biologically effective dose of resveratrol, you don't actually have to eat very much. I've seen some things that say, oh, well, if you actually want to get, a decent dose, like a biologically relevant dose of resveratrol, you have to drink 6 bottles of red wine, or you have to eat a case of grapes. Is that true, or is that not true?
Well, at least in terms of the microbiome. So it's hard for me to speak categorically about resveratrol because it's not my expertise, but
correct.
At least with regard to the gut microbiome, we think that even just having 1 glass of wine every couple of weeks does what you need, because you're feeding the microbes that like resveratrol.
Valid. Okay. So somebody asked a really good question here, which says, once a particular species of microbe in your gut becomes extinct or it dies, how do you get it back? Is it possible?
It's a tough question. We don't have a clear-cut answer yet to that question. Justin Sonnenberg, who's a microbiome researcher at Stanford, who, by the way, has endorsed my book, he supports it. He did a study where if you lose the species of microbe, which, by the way, in this study, they lost species of microbes because they were on a low-fiber diet. Mm. And if you reinstituted a high-fiber diet early enough, you would get the species back. But he did show that if you waited too long and you stuck with a low-fiber diet, ultimately, it would lead to the loss of that species, and you could not get it back. The only way to get it back in that setting was with a fecal transplant.
Fecal transplant. That's exactly right. Okay. What is the minimum amount of fiber recommended for men and recommended for women?
38 grams for men, 25 for women, and the average American is getting about 15.
Okay, average American gets 15. Recommended daily intake is 25 for women, 38 for men.
Yes.
Okay. If you could rewrite...
Those are the minimum, Cyrus.
Those are the minimum.
Yeah.
If you could rewrite the U.S. nutritional standards, Dr. B would say the minimum amount of fiber for women equals what?
Well, if I were to rewrite it, I think that, if we were eating the proper diet, so if a person's actually eating the proper diet, which to me is at least 70% plant-based, and ideally more like 90 to 100% plant-based, if we were eating the proper diet, people would be exceeding 35 grams of fiber without even trying. They would consistently be over 50 grams of fiber. But I'll be honest with you, Cyrus, I don't count grams of fiber. Okay? I don't count grams of fiber. I count diversity of plants. I look at how many species I eat, and that's what I pay attention to. And I'm eating a plant-based diet. And so as long as you're eating a plant-based diet and you're getting the diversity, if you focus on the diversity, you will get what your gut needs.
Okay. So when you say species, You focus on the number, the types, the species that you're consuming. Does that mean that a peach is one species and a tomato is another species?
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean that a white peach and a yellow peach are two different species?
Sure.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
So
different.
perfect. So black beans are different than red beans are different than garbanzo beans. They're
Yes,
all
that's
different
true.
species.
That's true. But this is why I get worried about categorical eliminations.
Okay.
Because black beans, chickpeas, kidney beans, although they're not exactly the same, they're like cousins, right?
Correct.
But if you do a categorical elimination of beans altogether,
Mm-hmm.
that's getting rid of the whole family. There's no whole grain that can replace that,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you say, look, I don't like black beans, but you're still eating beans and you're getting the other types of beans, you're going to be okay. It's not a big deal. But if you get rid of the whole category, no beans at all, you can't replace that.
I see what you're saying. Okay, so then follow-up question would be, on average, on a daily basis, do you have an idea about how many different species of plants you put into your mouth?
Here's what we know. The American Gut Project, in the American Gut Project, they looked over the course of a week. And what they defined as being a high diversity of plants was 30 or more. So now that doesn't mean that 30 is magically different than 29. You have to understand the statistics. This is where they made the threshold. But the point is this: we want to all be striving to get as much as possible, 30. But you know what's better than 30? 40. Why not shoot for as much as possible?
Okay. This is actually really important. So for those of you that are still here, the other 2,200 of you guys are still here, please write that number down. 30 different species of plant material into your diet on a weekly basis. If you can do that, then according to Dr. Will Bulsiewicz, you can get to a very diverse plant intake, and that's going to maximize your chances of having the most healthy gut possible.
And let me just say real quick, it doesn't have to be super challenging. Like people hear that and they go, oh, dang, how am I going to do that? Okay. Number one, if you make a smoothie, it's so easy. Bananas, greens, throw in multiple different types of berries, throw in some nuts and seeds, you know, and then if you want, make a smoothie bowl and throw even more toppings on top, and you could easily get to 10 right there in one meal. I'll make spaghetti and sauce, like tomato sauce. Okay. So we'll do an organic whole wheat pasta, tomato sauce. Look, that's 2. That's not very good, right? But how hard is it to throw in onions, garlic, zucchini, mushrooms, spinach? Okay. That's 5 extra plants. And then after the sauce is ready, smells amazing, kids are super psyched, serve that, get some basil, maybe some fresh parsley, boom, smash that on top. And guys, you just got all the way up to 9 plants on a dish
In one
that's
meal.
not hard to cook in one meal.
In one meal. It's brilliant. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Okay. If I'm already eating a plant-based diet and I still have heartburn, what do I do?
Well, so a couple things. Number one, I love that you're eating a whole plant-based diet. I would eliminate oil if that's a part of your diet. I would focus on plant-based diversity. I would also look at, there was a study, Cyrus, where they looked at the elimination of caffeine and alcohol and replacing it with water. And when people did that, they actually were able to improve their acid reflux. And then the last thing is this, and this is just being sincere, and let's be honest, guys. Let's not pretend that a plant-based diet is a cure-all for every single disease that exists on the planet. The plant-based diet is the healthiest diet that exists for virtually every single disease, and also happens to be the most ethically sound, and also happens to be great for our environment, okay? So the plant-based diet is a strong position from a nutritional perspective on all fronts, which is a beautiful thing. But if we all ate 100% whole food plant-based, there would still be some people with acid reflux. That's reality. You know, each one of us has vulnerability.
Valid. Okay. That's really good information, actually. Can eating too much fruit cause diarrhea? If so, is there such thing as too much fruit?
Yeah. So it's interesting. There are some people who have a congenital fructose isomaltase deficiency, which basically means that they are born with the absence of the enzyme necessary to process fructose in fruit. And it's easily remedied with an enzyme. And so if you have diarrhea with fruit, then you should talk to your doctor about being tested for this enzyme deficiency, fructase isomaltase deficiency.
Fructase isomaltase deficiency.
Yep.
And just for you guys, that will be on the quiz, just so you know. Okay.
And you have to spell it.
Okay. Okay. I have heard that beans and legumes cause a leaky gut. That's what people on the internet tell me. Is that a true statement?
Well, you know, that, and this gets back to be careful what you believe on the internet.
Mhm.
You know, if I need an attorney, I'm not going to go and find a paralegal to give me legal advice,
Mhm.
right? I'm going to find a really, really qualified attorney that I have confidence in because I have to trust them to do great work for me. Be careful who you believe in the internet. And the bottom line is in chapters 4 and 5 of my book, I break it down and I make it very clear what the position of legumes is, which is that people who eat legumes live longer with less heart disease and less cancer. And in the United States, we are eating less legumes today than we did 50 years ago. We eat just 6 pounds of legumes per year. And most people eat more pounds of meat in 2 weeks than they do pounds of legumes in an entire year.
Say that one more time. Most people eat.
People eat 220 pounds of meat on average in the United States
Mhm.
and just 6 pounds of legumes. 220 pounds of meat versus 6 pounds of legumes, and we think that the legumes are the problem. It's again, Cyrus, it comes back to people are being fed ideas that are not scientifically valid. And I break down the lectin theory in great detail in my book because people deserve to know what the truth is.
220 pounds of meat versus 6 pounds of legumes per year.
Yes.
I had
Yes.
no idea. That is
Right. And
unbelievable.
well, 6 pounds of legumes is down 25% compared to 50 years ago. I mean, we're eating less legumes than we did before. And yet
Wow.
somehow now it's the problem. No, it's not.
Wow. That is unbelievable. Okay. Well, talk to us about lectins. I realize that you go into a lot of detail about that in your book, but could you give us the sort of elevator pitch here about, are lectins good for me? Are lectins bad for me? Because it's all over the internet and people are being easily persuaded into believing that any food that contains lectins is actually going to damage their gut microbiome and cause a bunch of chronic disease.
Any person who hears that theory and feels confused because they're hearing different things should read my research guide, which is completely for free on my website, theplantfedgut.com,
Mhm.
because it's meant to help you to understand how to separate the truth from all of the noise. There's a lot of noise and bad science out there. With the lectin theory, the elevator pitch is this. Number one, the book that told us how bad lectins are forgot to include that most of the studies on lectins show that they protect us from cancer. There are far more studies saying that lectins are good for us, protecting us from cancer, than there are ones saying that they're bad. Cancer is the #2 cause of death in America, last time I checked. That seems pretty important to me that we protect ourselves from cancer. Number two, all of the lectin studies, I want you guys who are here today to understand this and be informed, intelligent consumers. All the lectin studies that are being referenced are test tube studies or basic science studies. This is literally the weakest research that exists. You never, ever should take those studies and accept them as true without doing human studies to see what happens when real people eat real food. It's not a fair extension to take a test tube study with some artificial concentration of lectins swirled around with human cells and, oh my gosh, look what happens there. That's not what really happens when a real person eats a bean, all right? So when real people eat beans and whole grains, they live longer with less heart disease and less cancer. And so the bottom line from my perspective is that I'm not scared of lectins. I don't pressure cook my food, but if you cook your beans, you're getting rid of most of the lectins anyway.
If you cook them. Okay, great. But does not necessarily have to be pressure cooked.
I've never pressure cooked my beans in my entire life.
Okay.
And I welcome those cancer protective benefits from lectins. I welcome them.
Okay. All right. Dr. B, we got time for 2 more questions. We have 2,159 people still here, but 2 more questions. Here we go.
All right. Make them good.
All right. There's a lot of good questions here. I just want to make sure we get some good ones. Okay. All right. How does gut health affect acne, especially in hormonal teenagers, but not necessarily only confined to them?
It affects hormones. It also affects skin health. Globally speaking, there are numerous different skin conditions that are associated back to the gut. If your teenager consumes dairy, the easiest and very quickest thing to do would be to eliminate dairy from their diet. That's step 1. But frankly, from my perspective, moving towards a plant-based diet, ideally a completely whole food plant-based diet, if you do that, you're going to see radical changes in your skin. I'm going to tell you right now, my skin changed dramatically, and I love it because I get more people asking me when I'm 40 whether or not I'm old enough to be a doctor than I did when I was 30. I mean,
wow.
Yeah.
How old do people think you are now? Mid-20s?
Sometimes in my late 20s, sometimes like 32.
Yeah. I thought you were 16, so that's impressive.
I'm actually 95.
Doing well. Okay, so here's another question. This is the last question. This is a favorite of mine.
All right.
Could you talk to us about the connection between soluble fiber, or just fiber in general if you want, and insulin production? What's the
gosh. Well, you are just as well positioned to talk about this as me, but here's the beautiful thing. So we talked about short-chain fatty acids.
Bingo.
During the presentation. Fiber feeds the microbes. Prebiotic fiber feeds the microbes. The microbes consume that fiber, and then they transform it into short-chain fatty acids. The short-chain fatty acids spread throughout the body. They can reverse leaky gut. They can lower cholesterol. They can prevent heart disease. They can help us to control our weight. But when it comes to diabetes, they go to the pancreas. And they have the ability to activate the beta cells within the pancreas to modulate insulin release. And that is one of the ways that fiber is able to help us control our blood sugar. And you and I have talked about this before, that
at length,
simply adding fiber to your meal can improve your blood sugar
dramatically. Another thing that it does too is it slows down the absorption of glucose into your blood. And it does so in your upper respiratory tract. So when you consume fiber-rich foods, the carbohydrate molecules that are then broken down into glucose, it takes a longer time for those glucose molecules to get into your blood. And as a result of that, you get a blunted blood glucose response after a meal, which then naturally, flattens the curve. That's exactly right. And it slows down the rate of insulin release from the beta cells because they don't have to work as hard. And that's another way that you can sort of upstream of insulin production, slow down the biological requirement for insulin.
Yeah.
All right, Dr. B, we've gone through 714 questions. You did it in record time. Congratulations. That was excellent. Quick reminder, for those of you that are still here, we got 2,000 of you, which is fantastic. Please, reminder to go grab a copy of Dr. B's new book, Fiber Fuel.
Right here, guys. Right here. This is it.
That's right. That one on the screen. Again, if you can get that book at a local bookstore, that is always the best option. We want to keep local bookstores in business as long as possible. If that is not an option for you in any way, shape, or form, and you have to purchase it online, that is okay. Please feel free to purchase it online as well. But the most important thing is get that book in your hands, because this book can truly change the way you think about your gut, the way you think about fiber, and the way that your gut microbiome health improves over the course of time. Number two, also, please visit forksoverknives.com/shop and pick up a copy of the Forks Over Knives Beginner's Guide. That magazine, as you guys had seen earlier, contains recipes, how-tos, success stories, scientific information, and much, much more. It is a fantastic resource. When I first saw that book in person in LA, because it came out at the time that I was there, I saw it and I laughed so hard because the amount of detail that the Forks Over Knives team goes in creating this material is so above and beyond what I expected that it just made me laugh at how much of a valuable resource they create for you guys and for people who are willing to eat plant-based or wanting to eat plant-based diets. So if you haven't already picked up your copy, I highly recommend it. The combination of that plus fiber fueled is a winning combination. And thank you so much for being here today. It's been a pleasure. There's still almost 2,000 of you guys here. Will, I'm seeing in the chat box, there's just a flood of thank yous coming in. Awesome presentation.
You guys are amazing. No, I'm so grateful for all the people who came to hang out with us today. I'm sincerely humbled and honored that you guys gave your time to listening to this talk. And also, I noticed a couple comments where people are almost being apologetic about buying it from Amazon. Please don't apologize about
not at all
from Amazon. Like, you guys order it from whatever place you need to. I think it's just, we want to bring attention to the local bookstores when there's an opportunity. Many of your communities, if you live in New York right now, you may not be able to get this book from your local bookstore. And I get it. So, but anyway, I just want to thank you guys. And I want to take this opportunity one last time to just thank Forks Over Knives, to thank Brian Wendell,
please.
to thank Brooke. This What an incredible opportunity to be able to come and use the Forks Over Knives platform, which I believe in so much, which I'm a huge fan of, which, I mean, frankly, it's my favorite cookbook by far. And to be here and be able to talk to the good, followers of Forks Over Knives, the community, it just really means a lot, and I'm grateful for that.
Absolutely. The Forks Over Knives team is, I mean, I have nothing but fantastic things to say about them, both as human beings, as well as content producers and people who are truly just motivated to want to help you live a healthier life. So thank you to everyone. My cat also wants to say thank you, and we will see you in next webinar. Have a great day and stay safe.
Thanks, guys.
See you guys.